Welcome back. So let's switch gears now to this issue of tinted glass permit enforcement by the Nigerian police force. Now, Mr. Popo Martins are taking them to court, and the court has said everybody should maintain status quo. But that has generated loads of controversy, multiple interpretation to these court orders. In fact, from Mr. Hundein, who is the first PRA, had said that, look, as a law-abiding force or institution, they will respect the law, but nothing in the court judgment, the court's order stops the police necessarily from doing their work. There's out of respect and all of that. We'll get all of this detail. Whether police wants to go on with the enforcement of the tinted glass permit, that the NBA has actually weighed in against the police that you cannot do this. But let's bring in the legal practitioner, Mr. Ademola Adeleye. He joins us from Abuja studio. Mr. Adeleye, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
So I think a direct question will be, is the police disobeying a court order? The reason I'm asking as we speak is that we understand that Mr. Popo Martins has filed a contempt proceeding against the police.
With respect to the contempt proceeding, I am not aware of, I read it on the pages of the social media, the way every Nigerian's read it, and I'm the lawyer personally handling that matter for the Nigerian Police Force and the Inspector General of Police. But let me take you to the fact. There is a lot of controversy with respect to this order of court made on 3rd of October 2025. In fact, let me give you a background before I talk about that order. On 2nd of September 2025, the Incorporated Trustees of the Nigerian Bar Association sued in representative capacity for itself, for Nigerian legal practitioners, and for the motoring public with respect to this tinted glass permit policy of the Nigerian Police Force, claiming that that policy is being anchored on a decree. Unfortunately, every Nigerian can go online, Google this law. That even from all the public documents, interviews, documents issued by the Nigerian Police Force, this policy is being anchored on the Motor Vehicles Prohibition of Tinted Glasses Act. You will find it in Chapter M21 of the Laws of the Federation 2004. It's just a 6-section law. And if you look at that law specifically prohibits the use of tinted glasses in Nigeria. Either you call it tinted, either you call it treated, either you call it colored glasses. In other jurisdictions, there are levels or degrees to allowance of the use of treated glasses or tinted glasses. But in Nigeria, this law specifically prohibits it. However, the law also gives a leeway that if you want to use it, it must be for good cause. And that law specifies what good cause means, either for health purpose or for security reasons. And you must apply to the appropriate authority, which is the Inspector General of Police or any officer appointed by the Inspector General of Police or authority given to any person by the Inspector General of Police for you to use tinted glasses in Nigeria. In fact, that law even specifically states that if you import a vehicle with tinted glass into the country, within 14 days of that importation, you must change it. However, let's even go back. 2nd of September 2025, the Nigerian Bar Association filed a suit before the Federal High Court in Abuja. It was filed by Mr. Olukunle Edun SAN. They approached the court for ex parte order for interim injunctions against the Nigerian Police Force to stop that policy. The court refused them. The same Mr. Olukunle Edun SAN now went to another jurisdiction of the court in Warri, filed for Mr. John Popo Martins another suit, exactly a month after they filed the Abuja suit, on 2nd of October. That was on 2nd of October 2025. Then on 3rd October 2025, they approached the court by way of ex parte without hearing the other parties. They took 4 prayers to the court, 3 for interim injunction, and the 4th one is for an order of the court to serve the Inspector General of Police and the Nigerian Police Force through substituted means. If you look at that order, the court specifically refused prayer 1, 2, and 3, which is the one for interim injunction against the Nigerian Police Force and the Inspector General of Police. With respect to this policy, the court only granted them the order to serve the IG and the Nigerian Police Force through substituted means. However, the court now said parties should maintain status quo pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice, which is for interlocutory injunction. As of that 3rd October 2025, enforcement of this policy had commenced. And if you look at the press releases from the Nigerian Police Force, you realize that this policy had been advertised. There are a lot of notices about the commencement of the policy in this media space from early in the year, and the enforcement of that policy had commenced as of that 3rd of October when they approached the court in Warri. It is unfortunate. Recently, I just even learned that the same Mr. Kunle Edun had now gone ahead to another high court in Delta State, that is Orerope Judicial Division. I read about it in the media like every other Nigerian too, and I'm aware that they are yet to even serve the Nigerian Police Force with the order of interim injunction they alleged to have gotten last week, Wednesday. And if you listen, even to the interview granted by Mr. John Aipoko, he specifically even admitted that it is the Federal High Court that has jurisdiction on this subject.
Mr.
So
Delaya,
Nigerians should then guess, why are they using dilatory means with respect to issues that affect national security and public safety?
I think the bone of contention here, which for a lot of people is quite clear, is the number 6 on that order that says an order is made for parties to maintain status quo pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice. The case clearly is against the tinted glass permit, the enforcement. So your own definition of status quo makes it look like the court was just making an academic exercise kind of pronouncement. So why is the court saying maintain status quo then, if it is referring to, oh, continue what you're doing? The interpretation is maintain status quo means what was before this case was instituted.
And what I was also saying that I'm making clear to Nigerians is that they filed that case on 2nd of October. What was the status of the enforcement as of 2nd of October? The status was the enforcement had commenced. In fact, let me even now take you to another information that Nigerians may not have. On 6th October, after the court in Warri refused their interim injunction, specifically, if you look at order 8 of that same order, you will see that the court specifically said prayers 1, 2, 3 are hereby refused, which are the specific prayers for interim injunction against the continuation of that policy. On 6th October, the Nigerian Bar Association President, Mazi Alfa Mosigwe, SAN, led some reputable members of the NBA to meet the Inspector General of Police. I was at that meeting as an external solicitor to the NBA, and Chief Ayotunde Ogunleye, SAN, was also at the meeting because Chief Ogunleye is the one representing the police in the matter before the Federal High Court in Abuja. And it took our intervention to prevail on the leadership of the NBA, of the Nigerian Police Force, not because there is an order restraining them from continuing with the enforcement of that policy, but because of our commitment and also the position of the Nigerian Police Force as a corporate responsible organization, saying that because these matters are in court, we are going to pause the continuation of the enforcement However, Nigerians should continue to comply with respect to the issue of registration for the use of tinted glass permit in Nigeria. Not because there is any specific order restraining them from the continuation of the enforcement. The enforcement had even commenced even before the suit was filed in Warri.
Right. So, as has been said, the Federal High Court sitting in Warri Delta State has been urged to commit the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, the Force Public Relations Officer, Benjamin Hundeyin, and the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of legal services, AIG Emmanuel Aino, to prison for alleged contempt of court. If you admit that this is still a matter in court and it's important to respect the court process, why will the police then say, okay, we're pausing now, but you know what, we're not even pausing anymore. January the 2nd, we're starting off, when there's still a case in court?
I read on Friday the press release by the police PPRO, and from the press release you will see that despite the pause of that enforcement, see, this very moment, the enforcement had not even commenced. So what are you committing the IG to prison for? What are you? Which order of committee are you then asking the court for? The commencement had not commenced. The publication that was made was to encourage Nigerians to continue to voluntarily comply with registration for the use of tinted glass permit in Nigeria. And like I said, it is safe to say that by the provisions of the Motor Vehicles Prohibition of Tinted Glass Act in Nigeria, the use of tinted glass permit in Nigeria is outrightly prohibited, save for permission granted by the Inspector General of Police. I'm sure when that process is served on the Inspector General of Police and the other alleged contemnors in that suit will adequately address that. And it is unfortunate, the matter in Warri came up on 8th of December. When the court adjourned it in October, it was specifically for hearing of a notice of preliminary objection to that suit and other pending application. But surprisingly, even the Mr. John Aikoko Martins and his counsel failed to respond to our processes. Rather, they filed a notice of preliminary objection to respond to a notice of preliminary objection which we filed, saying that the police does not have the right to engage lawyers of their choice to handle the matter for them, saying that the court should discountenance all processes filed by the police and the court should give them judgment. Even on 8th of December, they came to court to seek adjournment again, and the court adjourned the matter to 26th of March. But like Mr. CSP Hundeyin said in the press release issued by the police last week Friday, I am sure that the purport of the earlier press releases by the Nigerian Police Force was to encourage Nigerians to continue to voluntarily comply with registration of their tinted glass permit. So not mainly to continue with the enforcement.
Just to be clear, the case, just as we wind down, was filed on October the 2nd, right? So that's when the enforcement began, right? So it's not 3rd.
Not at all. The enforcement had begun before 2nd. At the time they were in court,
when did the enforcement begin?
From the press releases, I realized the enforcement began on
to the 2nd of October.
Immediately after. Yes,
it was first for June, right, but it was postponed to October 2nd. Exactly. And that was when the case was filed. So status quo would be before. Anyway, we have to anchor this.
At the time they were in court, enforcement had officially begun.
Mr. Dele, I think we need to sort out.
Court sitting starts at 9 a.m.
Mr. Dele,
enforcement had begun.
Mr. Dele,
order. In fact, the order was not even served.
Right. We have to anchor.
In fact, the orders were not served until days after.
All right, Mr. Dele, apparently we need to sort out these dates and this argument, because the argument is everybody's trying to navigate around what status quo is. So perhaps that's why we're arguing here. Ademola Adele is a legal practitioner joining us from Abuja studios. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll take a break and we'll come back. We'll switch gears to some controversy around the landed property in Abuja, in contention between an individual and the Enugu state government. We'll bring you the details when we come back after this break. Stay with us.